Hey guys, first of all, I'd like to say welcome Felicia, my new Monday partner. I'm glad I finally have a Monday partner. I've been um, alone for a while, so welcome. So today, this subject is on obsessions and compulsions and how to normalize behavior and to break bad habits. Now, to me, in some ways, we're kind of talking about two different things: obsessions, compulsions, and normalizing behaviors. Because what we're really talking about is, I think, normalizing our thought patterns, normalizing our reactions to things, and so I think it's a little bit different, but compulsions generally come as a result of obsessions, but the cycle of an eating disorder doesn't completely 100% of the time fit like an obsessive compulsive disorder. An obsessive compulsive disorder is a little bit different. It used to be, I thought that everybody that had an eating disorder also had obsessive compulsive disorder, and that's actually not really 100% the case, or even a lot of time that's not the case. Okay, so what we're really talking about is normalizing our reactions and our feelings and about our eating disorders and about how it affects us, because I think what happens a lot of the time is that we feel, because when we're in our eating disorders, part of the, I think, belief and the distortion that keeps us in it is it makes us feel somehow special, different, aside. It's our little thing, and that may be translated into we're a horrible person, or this is all mine. There's nobody that experiences things as strange or as different or as bad as me. And so I think that's really what we're talking about, is that if I share this, it will be too strange. If I talk about these things, it will be too weird, and it will be losing my secret life that I've created that is not normal, because if it was normal, then I would have to admit that there is nothing about it that is really making me a special person. Okay, so I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. I think that's a good clarification for me. Okay, so now I got that in my head. So what? I don't even know if that's specific to eating disorders. If you've been through a traumatic experience, what we tend to do is we tend to isolate that experience in our head and put it up here and say, this is my horrible experience, and it's way out there. It's worse than anybody else's. There's nobody that understands me. Nobody could possibly love me. Nobody could possibly understand what I'm going through, because what I'm going through is not normal. And first of all, you have to define normal. What is normal? I don't know that anybody's ever really come up with a good answer to that, but what is considered abnormal is behavior that is hurting ourselves, hurting others, causing us distress, causing distress to others, and in the case of an eating disorder, usually all of those are true. So to normalize what we are experiencing means that we have to admit that what we are experiencing is not uniquely shared by us, and there is actually a pattern. And if you talk to other people with eating disorders, it is likely that you're going to find out that 90% of their thoughts and their fears and their reactions to things match your patterns. If you, interestingly enough, I found this out myself, but if you talk to drug addicts, you're probably going to find similar patterns and similar reasons that keep them in their drug addiction as that keep you in your eating disorder. It's amazingly uncanny in some ways to talk to somebody that's recovering or recovered from a drug addiction and to compare notes with your eating disorder recovery journey and their drug recovery journey. So really, I mean, human behavior 101 is that the underlying basic needs of humans is the same, of what we need to survive. And our emotional needs also are very similar. There's a universal need that we have to be loved, to be cared about, to feel important on some level, to feel like we have a purpose. And with an eating disorder, a lot of times that need to have a purpose gets distorted into the need to be separate, the need to be validated, and to find validation through separateness and through not being normal. That's how we tend to validate our eating disorder. So it's really important to normalize, if you have an eating disorder, it's normal to have these thoughts. If you have an eating disorder, it's, not abnormal that you're going to relapse when you have a certain trigger. Or it's not abnormal that you're going to find this difficult or that difficult, because if you get into a room with the same people, with a lot of people with the same issues, you're probably going to find that they have similar patterns and experiences. Yes, it's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be very similar. It's similar enough that it will normalize the recovery process, and I think that's what we're talking about, is normalizing what we are experiencing as not unique, as a natural response to different things going on in our lives, and a natural response to being in an unnatural situation with ourselves. Because I wouldn't say that an eating disorder is necessarily natural, but I think that a lot of times we have maladaptive coping mechanisms to natural reactions. This is really where I like DBT therapy and DBT skills, or dialectical behavioral therapy, is really effective with eating disorder treatment. And it's just, there was something, I went through to a workshop for the place that I work at, where we were talking about DBT therapy and talking about riding the emotional wave. And what that means is, when you're feeling emotion, or you're feeling strange, or you're feeling abnormal, that you have to step back from the situation, and you're not avoiding the emotion, but you start to look at things as an observer. So you look at what you're experiencing and you feel the emotion, and what happens is the emotion gets intense, but then the wave goes down. And what we're doing with our eating disorder by trying to make it unique and trying to make, our problems are the worst, and there's no possible way that we could ever recover because nobody understands us, is that we are avoiding those feelings, because we spend more energy and more time avoiding that than we would if we rode the emotional wave. Because what happens is, you ride that wave, you feel the emotion, it escalates and it peaks, but then it goes down. And when you don't react to that, you're able to process that in a way that's healthy and a way that's productive and leads to healing. When you're constantly running away from that, you spend more energy and more time and becomes more self-destructive to fight that, because you're constantly butting heads with that feeling, and you're not really avoiding it, but you're avoiding the wave. And so and it's fear-based, we're afraid. That's kind of an obsessive compulsive thing, is that, you're afraid that if you don't do this, or you don't, you face that somehow everything's going to fall apart. And it's not based on any really rationality, because if we think about it in the here and now, even if they're having abuse memory triggers, while they can be painful for sure, Do we need support? For sure. But the reality is, if we can remind ourselves that we're in a safe situation now and we're experiencing these feelings from the past and we're able to separate that as an observer, then you can ride that wave and get to a point where you process that and are empowered and feel safe. And I think that's what we're talking about when we're talking about normalizing. So I hope that helps, and have a good week.